From The National, this is Trending Middle East. I'm Yasmin Al-Taji. It's Thursday, May 15th. Here are today's headlines. Qatar and Boeing struck a deal on what Trump called the largest order of jets in the history of Boeing. The American aviation company sold 160 jets to Qatar in a deal Trump said is worth more than $200 billion. It's part of a list of economic deals, together worth more than $243 billion with Qatar. Overall, the White House said Trump had signed an agreement with Qatar to, quote, generate an economic exchange worth at least $1.2 trillion. The National's Vanessa Ghanem was in Doha while the meeting was taking place. Here she is now.
These include an agreement for Qatar Airways' purchase of Boeing aircraft and a range of defense agreements, including a letter of intent on defense cooperation and a letter of offer and acceptance for Mk-9B unmanned aerial vehicles, and a range of defense agreements, including a letter of intent on defense cooperation and a letter of offer and acceptance for Mk-9B unmanned aerial vehicles.
The announcement followed a closed-door meeting between Trump and the Emir of Qatar, Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, which at 2 hours lasted longer than was scheduled. Trump said they discussed Iran, Russia, and Ukraine, and acknowledged a new dimension to the states' relations.
Many observers are saying that Gaza was likely being discussed as well behind closed doors. While Trump is securing billions in investments and defense contracts, it is also clear that he is after high-stakes geopolitical wins.
Trump said they'd reached, quote, another level of relationship between Qatar and the United States. Trump arrived in Doha on Wednesday on the second stop of his high-profile tour of the Gulf region. Qatar is a key diplomatic player in the region. It's the Gulf nation with the most formalized security relationship with the U.S., hosting Al Udeid Air Base, the largest U.S. military installation in the Middle East. On their relationship and the 2-hour closed-door meeting with Emir Tamim, Trump said this.
But I just want to thank you. We've been friends for a long time, long before politics. Well, for you it was politics, for me it wasn't, right?
Before heading to Doha on Wednesday, Trump attended a joint summit between the U.S. and members of the Gulf Cooperation Council. And one message came out front. A Palestinian state is central to stability in the Middle East. Jassim Mohamed al-Budaywi, the GCC Secretary General, said the most pressing issue for the region is Gaza. That includes getting food and humanitarian aid to its people and the release of hostages held by Hamas. Trump said the U.S. wants safety and dignity for the Palestinian people. He's blamed the dire situation in Gaza on Hamas. Here's the National's foreign editor, Mohamed Harisi, with more.
GCC leaders, led by Crown Prince Mohammed Salman, made it clear to the U.S. president that without a Palestinian state, there is absolutely no way to secure long-term prosperity in the Middle East.
But so far, there hasn't been much focus on Trump's initial plan on Gaza that would have involved the displacement of Palestinians there to neighboring countries.
It was obvious that everyone was trying to avoid bringing up the subject of his vision for Gaza, not his current vision, the vision that he suggested at the beginning of his term, which is to displace the Gazans and then rebuild the Strip. His vision changed a lot month after month, and he engaged with Hamas, and there are new realities on the ground, and we have seen how the ceasefire showed that Hamas is still kind of powerful in the Strip.
Trump said that the GCC leaders had played a constructive role in trying to bring the Gaza conflict to an end, including by securing the release of American hostage Idan Alexander, who was freed by Palestinian militants on Monday. A ceasefire brokered by Qatar, the U.S., and Egypt held for several weeks earlier this year, but it crumbled when Israel resumed military operations in mid-March. The war has devastated Gaza, with essential services and infrastructure in ruins and humanitarian agencies warning of famine. Also in Riyadh on Wednesday, Donald Trump met Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara. They discussed counterterrorism cooperation. It's a huge boost for Syria that came just a day after Trump's major policy shift to lift all sanctions on the country. The meeting opens the doors to potential ties between Washington and Damascus after years of discord under former President Bashar al-Assad. Meanwhile, there were scenes of joy and relief in Syria at the news of lifted sanctions.
One man told me that I really feels there was the same joy as when the regime fell. And for the first time, they feel like they can finally breathe.
Here's the National's Nada Atallah with more.
And if their people are so happy, it's because those far-reaching sanctions have completely suffocated the economy for years. And, the UN estimates that 90% of the Syrian population live below the poverty line. Syrians were facing shortages of basic goods, shortages of fuel, electricity, and even medical supplies. So now, for the first time in a long time, Syrians have hope.
Syria's economy collapsed during its 14-year civil war. The country is now ruled by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, a religious group formerly linked with Al-Qaeda and headed by Ahmed al-Shara. Unlike European powers, Washington had hesitated to recognize the new Syrian regime over its links with foreign militants and the killing of minorities and sectarian violence. Today, Trump will continue his trip in the UAE. He'll be departing Qatar from the U.S. airbase. It's expected to fall into the business-oriented agendas that have marked Trump's Gulf tour so far, this time with a particular focus on tech and AI. A source told The National the UAE and U.S. officials have been actively engaged in the lead-up to President Donald Trump's visit on Thursday in hopes of advancing a broad artificial intelligence and technology partnership. Cody reports from Washington.
The U.S. wants to try to maintain its lead in artificial intelligence. It wants to try to prevent China, with whom it has an increasingly adversarial relationship, from getting these high-performance AI chips and graphics processing units. What that means is some countries like the UAE, Saudi Arabia, India, Singapore, and Israel are kind of caught in the middle. They will face more burdens when it comes to acquiring these high-performance graphics processing units from companies like NVIDIA.
Gulf countries such as the UAE are seen as capable of picking up the burden of data center expansion, a crux of the AI boom.
So what the UAE is trying to do, it's working down to the wire before Trump's visit on Thursday to try to finalize a deal that would be a broad AI partnership that would kind of loosen the restrictions on these chips and make it possible for the UAE to kind of have a frictionless experience when trying to buy them. Now, these chips are very, very important for any country that wants to be a major player in artificial intelligence. So that's why people are working so ferociously behind the scenes. With one person telling me, and this person's very familiar with the UAE's AI aspirations, saying that, ahead of Trump's visit, they're trying really hard to work out the details to advance a broad artificial intelligence and technology partnership. Another source familiar with the U.S. side telling me that they are also working to try to finalize the deal. We'll see what happens.
That's all for this morning's headlines. You can get these stories and follow live updates on Trump's Gulf visit and more at our site. Yasmin Al-Taji, The National.